to you who requite your neighbor with evil, for you shall be requited according to your works. Woe to you, lying witnesses, and to those who weigh out injustice, for suddenly shall ye perish. Woe to you, sinners, for ye persecute the righteous, for you shall be delivered up, and persecuted because of injustice, and heavy shall its yoke be upon you. Greetings, friends, and welcome back to the broadcast. I'm Sean, your host. The website can be found at www.scriptureandprophecy.com. Well, today we are resuming our study in the ancient book of Enoch, and we are ready for chapter 91, and we're going to be dealing with these 10 prophetic weeks of Enoch. And it's basically 10 weeks of the history of the world broken up. And I happen to believe that we, according to what I read here, that we are probably in the 7th or 8th week. Ken Johnson thinks we're in the 8th week. I think it's more likely that we're in the 7th week. And so you'll have to kind of decide for yourself where you think we are on this timeline. But interestingly enough. And so that's really what we're going to be focusing on most today. So we're going to be reading chapter 91 through 95, maybe 96, depending on time. And so that's what's on the agenda for this morning, and I pray that it becomes a great blessing to you. The website, don't forget, is www.scriptureandprophecy.com. That's where you go to support this mission of truth. There's a recent blog post up there that's accompanied by the most recent news or end times news update, and so please be willing to check that out. All right, enough rambling. Let's begin. We're looking at chapter 91, so we're starting with chapter 91. Let's begin. And now, my son Methuselah, call to me all thy brothers, and gather to me all the sons of thy mother. For the word calls me, and the Spirit is poured out upon me, that I may show you everything that shall befall you forever. And thereupon Methuselah went and summoned to him all his brothers, and assembled his relatives. And he spake unto all the children of righteousness, and said, Hear ye, sons of Enoch, all the words of your father, and hearken aright to the voice of my mouth. For I exhort you, and I say unto you, Beloved, love uprightness, and walk therein. And draw not nigh to uprightness with a double heart, and associate not with those of a double heart. But walk in righteousness, my sons, and it shall guide you on good paths, and righteousness shall be your companion. For I know the violence must increase on the earth, and a great chastisement must be executed on the earth, and all the unrighteousness come to an end. Yea, it shall be cut off from its roots, and its whole structure be destroyed, and unrighteousness shall again be consummated on the earth. And all the deeds of unrighteousness and of violence and transgression shall prevail in a twofold degree. And when sin and unrighteousness and blasphemy and violence and all kinds of deeds increase, and apostasy and transgression and uncleanliness increase, a great chastisement shall come from heaven upon all these. And the Holy Lord will come forth with wrath and chastisement to execute judgment on the earth. In those days violence shall be cut off from its roots, and the roots of unrighteousness together with deceit, and they shall be destroyed from under heaven. And all the idols of the heathen shall be abandoned, and the temples burned with fire, and they shall remove from them from the whole earth. And they shall be cast into judgment of fire, and shall perish in wrath and grievous judgment forever. And righteousness shall arise from their sleep, and wisdom shall arise and be given unto them. And after that the roots of unrighteousness shall be cut off, and the sinners shall be destroyed by the sword. Shall be cut off from the blasphemers in every place, and those who plan violence and those who commit blasphemy shall perish by the sword. And after that there shall be another, the 8th week, that of righteousness. And a sword shall be given to the righteous judgment. And that sword shall be given to it, that a righteous judgment may be executed on the oppressors. And sinners shall be delivered into the hands of righteousness. And at its close they shall acquire houses through their righteousness. And the house shall be built for the great King in glory forevermore. And all mankind shall look to the path of uprightness. And after that, in the 9th week, the righteousness shall be revealed to the whole world. And all the works of the godless shall vanish from the earth, and the world shall be written down for destruction. And after this, in the 10th week, in the 7th part, there shall be a great eternal judgment, in which he will execute vengeance amongst the angels. And the first heaven shall depart and pass away, and a new heaven shall appear, and all the powers of heaven shall give sevenfold light. And after that there will be many weeks without number forever. And it shall be in goodness and righteousness, and sin shall no more be mentioned forever. And now I tell you, my sons, and show you the path of righteousness and the paths of violence. Yea, I will show them to you again, that you may know what will come to pass. And now hearken unto me, my sons, and walk in the paths of righteousness, and walk in the paths, and walk not in the paths of violence. For all who walk in the paths of unrighteousness shall perish forever. All right, let's stop for a minute. That was chapter 91, dealing with these 10 weeks. And let me go back here. I want to find exactly where he starts talking about. Okay, if we go back to verse 12, this is where he starts talking about the 8th week. I wanted to see if I could find the 7th week, because I think that I apologize for the delay here. I think that we are living in that 7th week where there's the apostasy going on here. So let me see if I can find that again here in the text. We'll reread that real quickly. Okay, so if we go to verse 9, it looks like, and all the idols of the heathen shall be abandoned, and the temples burned with fire, and they shall remove them from the whole earth, and they shall be cast into judgment of fire, and shall perish with wrath and grievous judgment forever. Well, really, we gotta go back even further than that, don't we? To find what I'm trying to find here. Oh, actually, you know what? We need to read further to find what I was trying to find. So I apologize for that small delay here. Let's continue on. It's actually going to be in chapter 93 that we get to the week that I was trying to point out to you. So it talks about it a little bit in the chapter 91, which we just read, but then it goes into more detail here coming up. So I apologize for the delay. Let's continue on with chapter 92. Verse 1, the book written by Enoch. Enoch indeed wrote this complete doctrine of wisdom, which is praised of all men, and a judge of all the earth. For all my children who shall dwell on the earth, and for all the future generations who shall observe uprightness and peace. Let not your spirit be troubled on account of the times, for the Holy and Great One has appointed days for all things. Real quick, I think that's an important line right there. And maybe I'll reference that again in the next prophecy podcast. Let not your spirit be troubled on account of the times. For the Holy and the Great One has appointed days for all things. Because there may be times where we're looking at what's going on in the world and the times that are upon us, especially as we're moving into 2020. Things have already started to excel into a direction that maybe we don't want. And we have to be careful not to let our spirit be troubled by all these things going on account of the times. For the Holy and Great One has appointed days for all things. Verse 3, and the righteous one shall arise from sleep, shall arise and walk in the paths of righteousness. And all his paths and conversation shall be eternal goodness and grace. He will be gracious to the righteous and give him eternal uprightness. He will give him power so that he shall be endowed with goodness and righteousness. And he shall walk in eternal light, and sin shall perish in darkness forever, and shall no more be seen from that day forevermore. So Enoch keeps describing that there's a day coming when sin will no longer be a thing. He's also talking about how this anointed one is going to come, and he's going to give power to be endowed with goodness and with righteousness. And we're supposed to be filled with the Holy Spirit, right? The Ruach Kodesh. That's supposed to empower us to not walk in sinful ways. Let's continue on. Chapter 93, verse 1. And after that Enoch both gave and began to recount from the books. And Enoch said, concerning the children of righteousness, and concerning the elect of the world, and concerning the plant of uprightness, I will speak these things. Yea, I, Enoch, will declare them unto you, my sons, according to that which appeared to me in the heavenly visions, and which I have known through the world of the holy angels, and have learned from the heavenly tablets. And Enoch began to recount from the books, and said, I was born the 7th in the 1st week, while judgment and righteousness still endured. And after me there will arise in the 2nd week great wickedness, and deceit shall have sprung up, and it shall be that there shall be the first end, and it shall be, and in it a man shall be saved, and after it is ended uprightness shall grow up. All right, real quick. So Enoch's about to give the 10 weeks that I was searching for just a few minutes ago. He says that he was born in the 1st week when there was still righteousness in the land. But then, not long after him, there would be great wickedness and the first end. All right, which we know to be the time of the flood, right? Okay, you had the great wickedness that sprung up during the times of Enoch and then excelled after him. God destroyed the world with a flood. Enoch says, and one man and a man shall be saved. And he's talking about Noah and his family quite clearly. And then he says, after it's ended, uprightness shall grow up. So he's saying, even after the flood, there's still going to be after the flood, there'll be uprightness that'll start to spring forward. And he's going to give a description of that. So we have to remember the timelines. He's starting from his birth and moving up through the end. Let's continue here. And a law shall be made for the sinners. And after that, in the 3rd week, at its close, a man shall be elected as the plant of righteous judgment, and his posterity shall become the plant of righteousness forevermore. And after that, in the 4th week, at its close, visions of the holy and righteous shall be seen, and a law for all generations, and enclosures shall be made for them. And after that, in the 5th week, at its close, the house of glory and dominion shall be built forever. And after that, in the 6th week, all who live in it shall be blinded, and the hearts of all them shall godlessly forsake wisdom. And in it a man shall ascend, and at its close the house of dominion shall be burnt with fire, and the whole race of the chosen root shall be dispersed. Okay, that's probably talking about the 70 AD, right? Those who were of the chosen root, meaning like the Jews in the land of Israel, will be dispersed. And it says here that the house of dominion shall be burnt with fire. Of course, we know that they burnt the temple down and all of that. Let's continue on. And after that, in the 7th week shall an apostate generation arise. Okay, so Ken Johnson seems to think that so I think it's possible that the apostate generation is the generation that we live in now. When I'm looking at his notes, He agrees with the temple being burnt and the Roman dispersion of Israel, so he agrees with me in that. And then he thinks that... I'm just looking at his notes here real quick. So he agrees with that, but he doesn't think that the 7th week is us. He thinks that we are in the 8th week. He thinks the 7th week is 100 years of the 700-year period. So he just thinks that's just the time period between after the temple was built, moving forward. But I think it's very possible that we are the 7th generation, or the 7th week, but he thinks that we're the 8th, according to what I'm reading in his notes, assuming that I'm understanding his notes correctly. Let me continue on. Find my place here. And after that, in the 7th week shall an apostate generation arise, and many shall be its deeds, and all its deeds shall be apostate, and at its close shall be elected, the elect and righteous of eternal plant of righteousness, to receive sevenfold instructions concerning all his creation. For who is there of all the children of men that is able to hear the voice of the Holy One without being troubled? And who can think his thoughts? And who is there that can behold all the works of heaven? And how shall there be one who could behold the heaven, and who is there that could understand the things of heaven? And to see a soul or a spirit, and could tell thereof, or ascend and see all their ends, and think them or do like them? And who is there of all men that can know what is beneath, what is breadth and the length of the earth, and to whom has shown the measure of all of them? Or is there anyone who could discern the length of heaven, and how great its heights, and upon what it is founded, and how great the number of the stars, and where all the luminaries rest? And now I say unto you, my sons, love righteousness and walk therein, for the paths of righteousness are worthy of acceptation. But the paths of unrighteousness shall suddenly be destroyed and vanished. And to certain men of a generation shall the paths of violence and death be revealed, and they shall hold themselves afar from them, and shall not follow them. And now I say unto you, the righteous, walk in the path, walk not in the paths of wickedness, not in the paths of death, and draw not nigh to them, lest ye be destroyed. But seek and choose for yourselves righteousness and an elect life, and walk in the paths of peace, and you shall live and prosper, and hold fast to my words and the thoughts of your hearts, and suffer them not to be affected from your hearts, for I know that sinners will tempt men to evilly entreat wisdom, so that no place may be found for her, and no manner of temptation may vanish. Woe to those who build unrighteousness and oppression, and lay deceit as a foundation, for they shall be suddenly overthrown, and they shall have no peace. Woe to those who build their houses with sin. From all their foundations shall they be overthrown, and by the sword shall they fall. And those who acquire gold and silver in judgment suddenly shall perish. Woe to you, ye rich, for ye have trusted in your riches, and from your riches shall ye depart, because ye have not remembered the Most High in the days of your riches. You have committed blasphemy and unrighteousness, and have become ready for the day of slaughter, and the day of darkness, and the day of the great judgment. Thus I speak and declare unto you, he who hath created you will overthrow you, and for your fall there shall be no compassion, and your Creator will rejoice at your destruction, and your righteous ones in those days shall be a reproach to the sinner and to the godless. Alright, before I finish and read the last 7 verses for today, I just want to point out the reason why I was confused earlier, trying to find these weeks, is because of the way they're spread out. You have the first 7 described in chapter 93, but the last 3 are actually described in chapter 91. So when we were starting our reading and we got to the end of chapter 91 and it started describing week 8 through 10, I was like, wait a minute, where's week? And so, very strange, but that's how it's laid out. So I read to you, so let's look at that real quick before we wrap up. And so I read to you the seventh generation, which I think is possible to be the generation we're living in now. Ken Johnson thinks this was the one leading up to this generation. I don't know. So it says, let's read that again. And after that, in the seventh week, so this is the seventh week, shall an apostate generation arise, and many shall be its deeds, and all its deeds shall be apostate. And at its close shall be elected, the elect righteous and the eternal plant of righteousness, to receive sevenfold instruction concerning all his instructions. So we have an apostate generation. Then if we go backwards in the text, and we go back to chapter 91, and it says, starting with verse 12, and after that there shall be another, the eighth week, that of righteousness. A sword shall be given in that righteous judgment. A sword shall be given to it, that a righteous judgment may be executed on the oppressors, and the sinners shall be delivered into the hands of righteous. And at its close they shall require houses through their righteousness, and a house shall be built for the great king in the glory forevermore. Now I can see where Ken Johnson's coming from, because he's saying this is where the church really took off, and these church houses were built all over the place, like it says here. And it says, and sinners shall be delivered into the hands of the righteous, and at its close they shall acquire houses through their righteousness, and a house shall be built for the great king in glory forevermore. And all mankind shall look to the path of uprightness. And after that, in the ninth week, the righteous judgment shall be revealed to the whole world. So he's saying that I hate to speak for him. I'm just talking about what I'm gathering from his commentary. It would appear that he thinks that we are in that eighth week, and what's about to follow is what it says about the ninth week. Let's go back to verse 14. And after that, in the ninth week, the righteous judgment shall be revealed to the whole world, and all the works of godless shall vanish from the earth, and the world shall be written down for destruction. So it's possible that we are living in that time, and that what's coming next is what it describes here, destruction. And the whole world shall be written down for destruction. Verse 15, and after this, in the 10th week, in the 7th part, there shall be great eternal judgment, in which he will execute vengeance amongst the angels, and the first heaven shall depart and pass away, and a new heaven shall appear. So, either way, we're in these time frames where these things are starting to happen. And so there will be, in the 9th week, that's when there will be judgment, and all godlessness will be removed from the earth. And then in the 10th week is when he's going to judge the angels. There'll be an eternal judgment where all stand before the Ancient of Days. And then there'll be a new heaven and a new earth, which is described in detail in the book of Revelation. So that appears to be what is going on here. Let me go back, read chapter 95, or let me move forward again. Let's read chapter 95, and then we'll close 7 verses here. Chapter 95. Oh, that my eyes were a cloud of waters, that I might weep over you, and pour down my tears as a cloud of waters, so that I might rest from the trouble of heart. Who has permitted you to practice reproaches and wickedness? And so judgment shall overtake you, sinners. Fear not the sinners, ye righteous, for again would the Lord deliver them into your hands, that you may execute judgment upon them according to your desires. Woe to you, fulfillment, and woe to you who fulminate anathemas, which cannot be reversed. Healing shall therefore be far from you because of your sins. Woe to you who requite your neighbor with evil, for ye shall be requited according to your works. Woe to you, lying witness, and to those who weigh out injustice, for suddenly shall ye perish. Woe to you, sinners, for ye persecute the righteous, for ye shall be delivered up and persecuted because of injustice, and a heavy shall its yoke be upon you. And that is the end of our study in the book of Enoch for this morning, and I pray in the powerful name of Jesus that it's been a blessing to you. And I hope that I did a good job of laying out those 10 weeks. I know there was a lot of dead air where I was looking for things and searching for things, but hopefully I got it laid out well enough for you. Or maybe I'm going to have to do another video altogether, just recovering those. We'll see. But one thing that I thought was pointed out is multiple times it seems like Enoch is telling these people, don't be afraid. You know, those of you who walk in righteousness, don't be afraid. It's all going to work out. It says, fear not the sinners, ye righteous. So don't be afraid of what they're doing. For again will the Lord deliver them into your hands, that you may execute judgment upon them according to your desires. And so that was like the second place where he said something like that. Let me see if I can find it on the fly here. Yes, in verse 92 he says, let not your spirit be troubled on account of the sinners. For the Holy and Great One has appointed days for all things, and the righteous one shall arise from sleep, shall arise and walk in the paths of righteousness, and all his paths and conversation shall be eternal goodness and grace. Well, there you have it. We're done. I'm out of time. Peace and grace be with all of you. Thank you for listening, and until next time, God bless.